Love seeing Anthony and Michael Vincent back together again. It's like two good friends getting back to give us economic updates. Speaking of good friends, I've got Thomas Wasson here, the host of Loaded and Rolling, the writer of our Loaded and Rolling newsletter, talking a little bit about truck parking. And Thomas, this is an issue that is, of course, top of everybody's mind. We had FreightWaves at MATS last week, and OOIDA is saying, we've got 3.5 million CDL holders in the U.S., just over 300,000 truck parking spots. So the math is not mathing there.
The math is pretty bad, it turns out. For every 11 drivers on the road, there's approximately one trucking spot. So the parking situation is, needless to say, pretty dire. Unfortunately, it's been that way for quite a long time. And so we had folks down at the Mid-America Trucking. We've had people tell how they were towed. They literally were parked in the parking lot where they were supposed to deliver, and the facility decided to tow their vehicle. And so, many of these challenges, when you wonder why vehicles are parked on the side of the road and shoulders, it's also a situation where there's just simply not enough parking. So we ask ourselves, has the federal government done anything, or are there any policies? Well, in 2012, there was a law put in place called Jason's Law that was part of a spending bill. And what it does is it tells the Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, to conduct a parking survey. The gentleman's name was Jason. Unfortunately, back in 2009, he was killed while parked in an abandoned gas station because he had nowhere else to park. So there was a big movement. They were able to at least add in this kind of reporting. Unfortunately, though, since 2012, when it was passed, there's only been 2 surveys. First one conducted in 2015, and the second one finishing up in 2019. We are still waiting on the entire results of the 2019 survey, so hold on to your seats. It's only been maybe 3 years now, but what they did release is that at least for 75% of all drivers, still parking remains at least a daily problem for drivers. In 2016, they took a logbook of around at least between like 600 and 900 drivers. Mm-hmm. They told them, here's a logbook, and just tell us how hard it is. Tell us about your day. Well, they averaged the numbers up, and it turns out drivers spend, on average, 56 minutes per day trying to figure out how to park in some form or capacity. So this is a nationwide epidemic of simply trying to find a place to shut down.
So the really interesting thing about that 56 minutes is that we've talked to a lot of people who are like, the supply chain problems can be fixed if we can find 18 more minutes that a driver could be driving instead of doing this, right? You're talking you've got 56 right here looking for parking. There's a very, very easy, with room to spare, you shave a third of that 56 minutes off and boom, there's your 18 minutes per driver, right?
That is definitely there. We talk about, especially with the supply chain, a lot of people don't understand that there's links in the chain, and if one link is messing up, then parking being a link in the supply chain, you have cascading effects, the ripples. And so, finding ways to do that, like you said, is potentially a gold mine. And a big issue is when they did respondents back in 2019 with truck stops, a majority of them did not have plans to expand. And so we have this weird scenario where motor carriers are driving, but when they park, a lot of these places, a majority of them are private property. You only know how many rest stops there are in each state. There's not a lot of rest stops. So there's not really a solution other than, unless a carrier shells out millions of dollars for a terminal, there's not an easy and quick solution or incentives in place to actually provide the parking for the very thing that hauls 70% of all surface transportation in the United States. So it's kind of a bad joke, so to speak.
So I feel like parking solutions are kind of a money game, right? Obviously a privately held truck stop is there, and you are paying a membership fee, or you're paying a small fee to park your truck there for the night, right? You're paying to use their facilities, you're paying to get gas at this place. So there's money involved in running a truck stop operation. What do you think about the possibilities of these really big enterprise carriers maybe starting negotiations with shippers and receivers to say, hey, you know what, we'll float you a little bit if you just let our guys park here overnight?
Definitely, and when we talk about, with trailer pools and ways are ways to alleviate it, but many shippers and receivers do allow drivers to park. The problem is we just don't know which ones. Even for going to a Walmart, it depends on the store location if they'll even let you park there. So the biggest challenge for drivers is visibility. We don't know oftentimes if you're working with brokers or even your own customers, it's hard, and that information is siloed among each carrier. So maybe Schneider knows you can park here, but US Express doesn't know you can park here. And it's neither's fault. It's just, it's this situation where it's all spread out. And so I have heard a few crazier ideas. Yeah, the best one I heard as a potential solution was that, you got a gym membership, kind of like you said. Well, if you're part of an organization, you get your own private truck stops. Because right now, current public truck stops, they don't make money off of parking unless you pay to reserve a park. And those spots are a small amount. So your TAs, your Petros, your Flying J's, they offer paid solutions, but that's only a small fraction. Most of these places make their money off of snack foods. Fuel, a little bit of fuel, but mostly the stuff in the convenience store. So for these truck stops, they're kind of like, I can add more parking, but then at the same time, like I'm making money off of instant coffee and donuts. And so it's this weird warped incentivization structure. And then finally, zoning is a huge issue. Right. State and local governments, especially even federal, trying to get people to zone and allow you to park these trucks off of areas, they're competing with developments, homes, other businesses. They'll even buy the spots up that could be used for truck parking, and they'll turn it into warehousing. Ironically enough, further exacerbating the truck parking problems. So it's almost this systemic issue where, a lot of people are going to point fingers. It's a very complicated situation, but ironically, we've known it's been a problem for so long. It's just the solution is kind of elusive at the moment.
And it's interesting that you bring up that zoning issue. We talked last summer about rulings in Minneapolis where they had ruled that within the city limits, truckers were subject to a fine if they were parked anywhere within the city limits, regardless of really any exception. So let's talk a little bit about that and how, you've got these folks who are fighting for, I don't want a truck clogging up my neighborhood streets, or it's an ugly thing to see, but I want my Amazon package delivered to me today, right? It's this double-edged sword that we have to get the public to understand that you can't have it both ways.
That's a great point. It really is an issue of information. A lot of even policymakers don't understand. You have bring your child to work day. Let's just bring a policymaker to a driver day. Let's just ride around a little bit. By the time they're stuck circling a parking lot for 56 minutes. Hopefully that gives an idea. It's not as if the, policymakers are completely mute or tone deaf. It's just you're getting yelled at by a lot of people. Majoring in political science, everyone wants something from you. And so it gets hard sometimes if you're a truck driver, and especially a fragmented industry. We have the ATA, we have the OOIDA, we have, quite a few organizations that are trying to lobby. But trucking is kind of a behind the scenes, like a roadie at the rock show. We only pay attention, like you said, is when our store shelves aren't, our Amazon package didn't make it, or there's some kind of delay in the supply chain, like we're seeing with food prices and other stuff. So it is almost an effort where it will take more work to get above the default level of noise in our current discourse and environment.
So if you're watching this and you have any interest in heading to your city council talking about zoning for truck parking, do it and go fight for that, because if not, your Amazon package will be delayed.
You gotta do it for the Amazon package.
Gotta do it for the Amazon package.
Remember as well when you're at these, these zoning meetings as well, even at the local levels and stuff, they are able to be publicly attended. So if you want to get involved, instead of fighting the good fight for not having high density housing because you want to preserve your home prices, fight the good fight to open up just one more truck stop, because not only will they stimulate the economy and allow your HOA to get mowed twice as efficient, but you're also providing a valuable thing to where the people who are delivering your goods, they may be more inclined to show back up to your town instead of what Minneapolis tried to do. Because if you're a truck driver and you hear that, do I want to go up to Minneapolis? It's a pain in the neck to get out in the first place. That's kind of a deal breaker.
Thomas, before we let you go today, let's talk a little bit about your show for next week as well as the newsletter. You had a really great episode with our founder and CEO, Craig Fuller, this past Monday.
Super excited. We're having Toby Huang with AI Fleet coming up on Monday at 2:30. Also, I'm hosting SiriusXM Road Dog Trucking from 5 to 7 Eastern today and tomorrow, taking over for Grace, who's on vacation. So definitely check it out. You may read some stories. You may talk to some people. It's super fun. Radio is alive and kicking.
That's Sirius Channel 146 Road Dog Trucking Network. Go check out Thomas Wasson and check out Grace Sharkey every Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time for drive time. Thomas, thank you for joining us here today. We'll catch you on the radio this afternoon. And then for folks who want to read your newsletter, where can they go to do that?
Definitely check it out, freightwaves.com/loaded and rolling. Just released one earlier this morning. Definitely look at it. I'll eventually get them to the website, so we're getting there. But look at it in the meantime. Super fun stuff.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be back to wrap up your first hour of FreightWaves Now on this Thursday in just a few minutes.